all. Bills can win it here. White puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. The Bills have won it. They win it 41-38. Incredible. What a comeback by the Bills.
Jacksonville's perfect record on the line right here.
They put in Williams as the fullback, and he scores a touchdown, the 12th year defensive tackle.
And the fans are all over the field. Incredible. This place is pandemonium.
Welcome, friends, folks, enemies, men, women, children, people of Middle Earth, wizards, witches, muggles. I ran out of things.
Warlocks.
This is another episode. There you go. Welcome to another episode of Disguise Coverage. I am Anthony, your host here on Disguise Coverage. Once again, not alone on this episode. I've got regular friend of the show and who I'm sure everyone is familiar with by now, Greg Thompson of the Cover One Buffalo podcast, general, likable know-it-all, and guy who likes long moonlit walks on the beach and is a Taurus, if I remember correctly.
Yes, good snag. I like it. I dig it.
That was my prep for this episode. I don't know anything about Bills Chiefs stats, none of that kind of stuff. We will also be joined in a short while by Anthony Romeo from the Hoof Podcast, also part of the Cover One Sports Network. And the reason Greg is on this week, and we'll have Anthony joining us, is I know it's going to come as a little shock, but there is a Bills game again this weekend. Yep, as Greg is nodding, there is. And it's the AFC Championship. I'm still kind of riding high on just the overall aspect that the Buffalo Bills are one of the final four teams in the NFL, and all the talk that we had throughout the offseason and beginning of the season of, you know, we have to get through the Chiefs and the Bills have to get through the Chiefs and the Bills would probably meet the Chiefs. And here we are, where in the home stretch, Final Four, semifinals, championship week.
Say it again.
Final Four, championship week. It just still seems so surreal that we're – and I don't want to do that to downplay the Bills or really throw in any sense of doubt, but just we're here. We're almost at the pinnacle. It's a wild feeling.
Yeah, so I just did a quick spot on our friends up at Sportsnet 590 up in Toronto and jumped on with them, and I told them, you know, every year for the past, you know, I won't say 20 years, but the past 10 years of really diving into this deep, right now I'd be neck deep in my 100th mock draft at this point. Like, I'd be about 100 mock drafts deep of what I've just completely played with and messed with and figuring out who the Bills are going to draft with the 12th pick in the draft or whatever the heck we had that year. And the fact that, like, every once in a while I see, you know, our guys Russell and Christian and you know, everybody else doing draft work, and they bring up a prospect's name, and I'm like, I've never heard that human's name before in my life, and it's awesome. I have no idea who that is, and I'm so laser focused and tunnel visioned in on this game and this season and these matchups. It's awesome. It's everything that I wanted it to be, and I can't ask for more.
I'm so similar in that regard. I love college football, and I love the draft, and I've always thought that part of it is because, to your point, growing up as a Bills fan, all I've really known is like, all right, well, let's see what our draft position is. Who are we drafting? Kind of turn around some things, fix some holes, that kind of stuff. And so I've always wondered how much of my college football fandom and mock draft love, like I do the same thing. I start looking at mock drafts in like December normally. And because I'm always looking at like, okay, the Bills need this. We were terrible this year at this. And usually by like November and December, I'm sitting there thinking like, I really want the Bills to win this game, but also I'd like them to lose so that way they can move up 2 spots and get a higher pick. And instead, I'm just in the same boat. Every week we're getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And the fact that it's come down to the Bills and the Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, a team that has just at times looked like an absolute juggernaut. You and Aaron spoke about them on the Cover One Buffalo podcast this week on the preview show, that when they're on, and they flick that switch on offense, they are invincible. You cannot touch them, stop them. They just look like, oh, what? We need to, they say we need to score. All right, cool. Touch.
They just have an answer to every question the defenses throw at them. The good news is that switch hasn't been flipped for a little while. It's that they used to have stretches where it was just wide open and they ran the entire game like that and they just ran people out of the gym. Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen that in a while. And a piece of that makes me nervous that they've been holding it back and that maybe they're going to try to unleash it. It's just, can they restart that engine to that degree without having shown it in, honestly, like 10 weeks?
And that's a really good segue into some of what we're going to be talking about on tonight's episode. We're going to talk about some matchup things, some things that are key for a Bills win, some Josh Allen talk, some Pat Mahomes talk. And then also, these two teams, they met in week 6, and we're going to wrap up the show later with how they're different. And again, everybody keeps talking to, they played in week 6, here was the result, here was what happened, and dive into those details. But I don't want to write off Kansas City, and you can't, but the direction and the trajectory that the Bills and Chiefs have taken since week 6 has been, I don't want to say opposite, but Kansas City hasn't looked like the world beaters that they can be. And exactly to your point, is it a matter of, are there some like chinks in the armor, or is it still that they just kind of put it into neutral, a la the Warriors in the NBA for those runs where they were just like, listen, we're just waiting until we have to try come the finals maybe, and we can put up 150 points on you in any moment. It's so intriguing, and just the fact that we get to talk about it is good enough. And we're going to jump right in. So Bills Chiefs AFC Championship game. It's still wild to even say it.
Wait, before we go any further, is your background real?
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yes, my wife said it when I set it up. She's like, people are going to think the background's fake. I was like, no way. I'm not in Buffalo for this episode. I'm currently in New York City, where I've lived for the last 9 years. The wife and I had to come up here to do some things today and tomorrow. So yeah, we have this pretty cool, very real Empire State Building behind me.
That's
and then
awesome.
A little New York City skyline backdrop behind me. Yeah, she did a really good job in picking out a room with an awesome window.
That's really awesome.
I appreciate the shout out. She will be extremely thrilled to know that you took such notice and then we're able to point it out. I meant to point it out, and then we started talking about the Bills and I completely forgot. So I appreciate you.
That sentence you just said covers about half of my life the past month. Like, I meant to talk to you about that, but then we started talking about the Bills and I couldn't remember anything else. So sorry about that.
Everything, yeah. So let's talk about that. Bills Chiefs. One more time. AFC Championship game. And within that game, there are matchups to watch, as there are matchups and everything. But playoff football is so much about matchups, both on a holistic level, two sides of the ball, but an individual player level. So, Greg, I'll let you start here. Your most important matchup to watch. It could be individual-based. It could be unit-based. You could have several. You could have one main one. What is your most important matchup to watch for the Bills Chiefs AFC Championship game?
So it's going to be Leslie Frazier's ability to disguise pressure against Patrick Mahomes. I don't think the answer, obviously everyone's talking about his concussion. He's going to play. I don't think there's any likelihood. I don't want to dismiss it in the fact that I don't want to say concussions aren't serious. They very much are. It appears as though he's going to be cleared from that and that he is going to choose to play, and he's a grown man and he can choose to do that. His toe, I actually think, is moderately interesting in that they'll shoot him up with Toradol and everything that they normally do, but he may not be the same level of mobile that he's been. Mm-hmm. All the numbers show you do not blitz Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. He is a surgeon against the blitz, and when you have guys who can get open as quickly as Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman can, that makes sense. Or matchup problems like Travis Kelce, who's open when he's not open. So the way around that is to steal a little bit of both. So I don't want to see a ton of crazy aggressive blitzes where you're sending 5, 6, 7 guys. What I do want to see is 6, 7 guys mugged up at the line of scrimmage that he doesn't know who's coming. And then he doesn't know which 4 of them are coming and which 3 are dropping back into coverage to still have 4 go and 7 come back. And if you time that right, And every once in a while, it's only Mario Addison on that side. But on this side, you have Ed Oliver, Jerry Hughes, and Taron Johnson coming off the corner, and you have an overload. It comes like a blitz because those blockers aren't ready for that. They're not ready to go the other way on the short side of the field where they can tell Mahomes is going to roll right into it, and they're bringing the overload to that side. Addison's just kind of playing safe on the other side to make sure nothing comes back that way. And now you've dropped 7 while bringing pressure that gets to him on that side. I want to see disguises like that. And not that I'm saying I want Harrison Phillips dropping back into coverage all day. That's not what I'm saying.
Put him at safety.
Those mixtures where they can disguise those pressures, disguise the coverages, not make it obvious what they're doing, where they're still running zone the majority of the time. They're going to run zone a heavy amount. They're still going to run base pressure, dropping 7 the majority of the time. That doesn't mean you can't bring pressure. It just means it's not by blitzing. And what that also opens up is later in the game where you've now mugged up 7, brought 4, mugged up 7, brought 4, mugged up 7, brought 4. Late in the game on a critical 3rd and 8, now all of a sudden, oh crap, 6 guys are coming. I wasn't expecting that because you've been dropping people every single time. And now that double A gap blitz that you've just shown and dropped, and now they come and are at a direct straight line at him, then those blitzes hit where he can't cut you apart because they genuinely got lulled into that false sense of security. That's the key. I think that we can go shot for shot with their offense. If they're on their A-plus game and we're on our A-plus game, they're probably that much better. We need our defense to make a couple of those plays, steal a possession, and that's the matchup where I think it happens.
I like that a lot, and I second that notion. I don't want to discredit the other side of the ball in the Bills offense versus the Chiefs defense. And I know despite the amount of points the Bills put up against the Colts, and I know Baltimore's defense is very good and they matched up well, and Marlon Humphrey had a tremendous game, the Bills offense hasn't looked tremendously efficient so far in the playoffs. And I don't want to just assume things, but I really think that the Bills offense can put up points on this Chiefs defense. I don't think the Chiefs are a good matchup for what the Bills do on the Chiefs end. I think the Bills match up well. They should be able to move the ball. They should be able to sustain drives and put points on the board. So I don't want to just brush over that, but I think that's more of a certainty. So I am also on that same side of the ball, the Bills defense versus the Chiefs offense. And I love your point about that blitz scheme and the overloads. It immediately called to mind, like, granted they blitzed more, but the Dick LeBeau Steelers defense, where they would just line up guys on the line and maybe they'd only rush 4 and they'd drop James Harrison or Lamar Woodley off the side into a zone and they'd only rush 4 and the line slid to the wrong side and you've got 2 guys coming fresh off the corner, running down on Joe Flacco and all those QBs from that time. It was such a good look. And I like that because it feeds into my overall thing with the most important matchup to watch, which is the Bills pass defense versus the Chiefs passing offense. Whether it's we're doing it on the back end, whether we're causing havoc up front, that is the matchup to watch. It was the focus and the change in philosophy that the Bills had the first time these teams played in Week 6. Granted, they're different where they are now, but we saw the Bills and the mindset there, which was do not get beat deep, do not give up the big chunk plays, do not get beat with the explosive plays. We're going to defend the pass at all costs, thinking that, the Chiefs will have to run the ball and we should be able to get him in the run. That did not work. Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran for 4,078 yards in that game. It was insane. And so how do we do against that passing offense again? Because, again, they can flip that switch at any point. And I know how much we blitzed Lamar, which, again, is why I love your point about disguising the blitzes. We love all things that are disguised on this show. We blitzed Lamar so much. You saw the numbers. It's the highest amount he's ever been blitzed in an individual game. The highest amount he's ever been blitzed by defensive backs. The pressure rate was, I believe, the 4th highest he's ever faced in his career. The Bills just were so aggressive and coming after him. And no disrespect to Lamar, but Patrick Mahomes is a better diagnoser of the defense pre-snap.
Light years different.
Light years. Pre-snap, as the snap is happening, post-snap, as he's running, as he's standing there, as his toe hurts, as he may or may not have a concussion, he's still processing at a tremendous rate. And with that arm talent, combined with the speed and the separation ability of the Chiefs offense, if you are not covering right or disguising the right thing, whether it's coverage, whether it's pressure, causing some kind of discrepancy in the day-to-day, play-to-play, snap-to-snap, read-to-read movement for Patrick Mahomes, he's going to sit back there and pick you apart, and that's a problem, obviously.
It's going to be, people get frustrated with the game plan that, well, we lost, and they put up 240 yards rushing, so obviously it was a terrible game plan. And, Eric and Aaron and I have done a lot of research and looked at it, and I know we all feel pretty strongly it wasn't a terrible plan. Mm-hmm. The plan was not for Edwards-Helaire to run for that much, which is easy to say when they were taunting them with five-man boxes over and over again, that of course everyone's going to run when you literally only have 5 guys there to stop it, let alone a 6 or a 7-man box. So when they do that, you talk about then, okay, that's the game that Cam Lewis was playing for Taron Johnson. That's the game that A.J. Klein was the worst game A.J. Klein played. Like, that was the game afterwards that everyone wanted him cut. Trey White had just come back from his injury and been missing. Matt Milano missed that game. Uh-huh. We were still rotating some weird stretches on the defensive line. Harrison Phillips was benched completely and healthy, and barely even playing. So all of those things, we are a far, far different team than we were in week 6, and now prepared for, if we now, just tempt them and dare them with 5-man boxes because Milano is shifted out a little bit, but now it's with this revamped defensive line who's playing really, really well. Taron Johnson, who fills and tackles better than most nickel corners, a healthy Matt Milano who can come back in more quickly than A.J. Klein could. Now the idea is that if we dare them to do that, but rally and tackle better, now it could be a more effective game plan and executed better than it was then. So last time it might have been an okay plan. Maybe it was the wrong plan because they were planning on A.J. Klein and Cam Lewis to execute that. Maybe that was unfair. Maybe that was the bad part of it. Now we might have the horses to execute that and have it be not terrible, and that if dropping 6 back into coverage and only having 5 guys around the line of scrimmage makes sense against these guys.
Yeah, I think I echo that as well. I think the plan initially in the first matchup with the Chiefs was fine in theory, but in practicality and execution, it was lacking and it was not there. And I think I know the answer to the question I'm about to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you're worrying about the most dangerous weapon on the Chiefs, and there are several on offense, aside from Patrick Mahomes, who are you more worried about in the passing game, Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce?
So, I mean, you're talking about, do I want to get hit with the sledgehammer or the Kill Bill katana? Tyreek Hill can kill you on one shot. He gets the ball one time and he's gone. Travis Kelce isn't necessarily going to do that. He's super athletic for a tight end. He's not running away from our entire secondary and, scoring on any given play for an 80-yard touchdown without a ridiculous breakdown in coverage. But he's so dependable, and that everybody saw what he did to Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward is a top 4 pick in the draft, phenomenal young cornerback, and he roasted him with a, post and spin back, route that was unbelievable, that a 6'6", 260-pound man should not be able to do. I'm more concerned with Travis Kelce because I think the Bills' game plan and ability to use brackets where you don't need a dedicated double team, you can just have continual pass-offs of 2 people paying attention to where he is as he goes from zone to zone. That's how he had 3 catches for 20 yards in the first game. He was healthy that entire game. They kept him under control because they had 2 people looking at him the entire game. I expect that to happen again, but last time, again, as we talked, I have a feeling Taron Johnson and Matt Milano can give a better run at Travis Kelce than A.J. Klein and Cam Lewis could. So I'm hopeful that we do a very similar coverage plan of, the zone bracket version of 2 sets of eyes on Tyreek Hill, and then just trust that the handoff from Milano to Taron Johnson will be better against Kelce. I don't expect to shut him down and stop him. I expect it to be better.
Again, this is going to be a theme. I think you and I are usually on the same page. I echo those sentiments. Oh, and thank you for the support. As always, hit that like button. That is the lifeblood, amongst many other things, to us here.
It tells other people about the goodness that we have.
That's exactly a great way to put it. I'm in the same boat. Whether it's Trey or whether it's the bracketing, the way the Bills have been able to, I'll say, limit the efficiency and or the potency of wide receivers or the wide receiver position throughout the year gives me more hope that they'll be able to contain Hill on some level. But we've seen, and maybe it's just because I still have the Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox performance from the Colts matchup still in my brain. We've seen time and time again throughout the year the Bills be beaten in that intermediate middle of the field, whether it's a tight end, whether it's the mesh concept, whether it's those crossers over the middle. And it's everything that Kelsey feeds on. Someone in the comments did a great job on it, said that Kelsey is the Mahomes version of what Cole Beasley is to Josh Allen. And it's very true. He can run those option routes. He can stretch things even more, a little more vertical, a little more upfield. And when you combine it with his size and his ability to post up defenders and just use his big body, it worries me a bit to see what he can do. And I think, exactly to your point, the way the Bills have shown, especially this year, their ability to limit the damage that an individual star or stud receiver can do gives me more confidence that, okay, we should be able, knock on wood, I'm literally knocking on wood, we should be able to mitigate what Tyreek Hill can do and what Hardman and that crew can do, but what Kelsey can do and where the Bills have been vulnerable on defense throughout the year. And granted, they've been better as Edmonds has gotten healthy and as Milano has come back and as Taron Johnson has rounded into form, but that gives me a little cause for concern. But I also was a little worried last week going into how Mark Andrews would do, and the Bills, for the most part, really limited him, and the two biggest plays were they went to Andrews in the end zone, and Taron Johnson got a pick six, and then we saw Andrews get the ball again later in the fourth on that seam route up towards the field goal post, and we had multiple defenders on him. We're able to draw the ball loose. So I think we're on the same page here in terms of that matchup being that Bills passing defense, and again, whether passing defense holistically, whether you're thinking at it from the coverage perspective or the defensive front and the pressure perspective, that's going to be the key. Can you make Patrick Mahomes inefficient? Can you limit him? Can you mitigate the damage that team could do? Ooh, that is very good.
Sneaky one that I honestly, I didn't connect that. The guards this game being John Feliciano and Ike Botker versus Cody Ford and Brian Winters in that game. That's a great call by JM. Great call.
The performances that Ike Botker has turned in and kind of solidifying the left guard position, unreal.
So he's not some hidden superstar. We didn't stumble across some hidden, amazing guy. He is a starting caliber lineman. Like he is. It's shocking. Right? He is a starting caliber offensive lineman. It's delightful.
I saw him and Winters as like interchangeable, and it was just kind of like, well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And then Winters was so bad, no offense. And I was just like, put in Botker, and he's come in and he's really stabilized that position. It's been great. I've also seen a lot of comments coming through about the Patrick Mahomes toe issue and how to handle that and how to pressure him. We are going to get to that, but in a separate topic. So for those of you that have asked that, don't fret and don't think like, oh man, I can't believe they skipped over my really solid question. It is a solid question. We just haven't gotten to it yet. Next, and it's related to the most important matchup to watch for. The Buffalo Bills will win this game if – what is your answer, Greg? And it can't be if they score more points than the Chiefs, because that's a given. I know most people don't know that, but that can't be the answer.
I looked into some analytics. The percentages of times that teams win when they score more points is crazy.
It's high.
Really, really high.
It's like, I think it's like 74%.
It's really high.
Right.
So I don't think they can win this game without creating a couple additional possessions. And I phrased it that way intentionally. Okay. It doesn't have to be traditional turnovers of a fumble recovery or an interception. Those would be lovely. Holding them into field goals are not going to win this game. Touchdowns will win this game. Holding them to a long field goal on a drive where they had really good position and you got a sack and knock them back out of it and they had to settle for a field goal. That's going to almost count like a turnover in a game like this. Obviously, both teams are pretty aggressive going forward on fourth down. A fourth down hold is a turnover. Turnover on downs is a turnover. Those scenarios, it's going to take a couple turnover caliber stealing a possession. I don't think they can afford to have the insane field position discrepancy they had versus Indianapolis. This offense is not going to come into Bills territory 6 times and come away with 10 points. That's not going to happen. You cannot allow that. I would love to see close to the other direction of that. That'd be lovely. The Bills have a huge advantage in special teams. DVOA has this, the weighted DVOA has this at like the 28th special teams versus the number 2 special teams. That's a huge difference. So I think that the kickers are similar. Their place kicker is good. Their punter is not anything special. Their return game is hit or miss. Their coverage game is lacking. So our coverage game is good. Mecole Hardman is a very good returner. Our coverage game is better than theirs. We can contain him in theory. Their coverage game is poor, and there's a chance that Andre Roberts could rip one here and be able to set up a big field tilting return. I think it's going to take something like that. It's going to take a stealing a possession or two, and not a ton, but we need to win that battle, that we take more turnovers, fourth down conversion misses, missed field goals or field goals. If we can win that battle, I think our offense is good enough that we will convert the touchdowns to win this game. We just need to make sure that we steal 1 or 2 of those possessions, because if we just try to go shot for shot with them, I'm nervous about not having any other advantage.
Yeah, that's spot on. I'm worried in that regard with Kansas City as well. For as good as our offense is, and for as tremendous as Josh Allen has been, and Diggs, and again, the whole offense, I don't want to get into a match where we're trying to go blow for blow with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's just like, okay, let's see who can be the first team to 50. I don't want to get into that matchup with the Chiefs. And I'm on a similar page. I'm a fan of, as everyone would be, but winning that turnover battle, creating extra possessions, getting 7 when you have the opportunity to get 7 and not getting 3, doing the opposite to them, holding them to 3 or 0 when they could get 7, like we did to Baltimore. And those are very high on my list as well. My number one, other than making Patrick Mahomes inefficient, which is the number one, I think is the biggest focus for us as a whole, I want to see long, sustained drives from the Bills offense. Granted, touchdown is a touchdown. I'm fine if we go 3 plays, 70 yards, and score a touchdown. But we have shown the ability to have those drives this year, 8 plays, 80 yards, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, touchdown. 11 plays, 65 yards, 7 minutes, touchdown. If we can do 2 things, which is score touchdowns, but do it in a way that limits how many times Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs can have the ball, I think that lends itself massively to a potential Bills win. It's the reason that so many people throughout the last couple of years have always said the Ravens were the biggest threat to the Chiefs because of their running offense being able to just grind the clock and get first downs and put up points. It was like, okay, well, a solid running game that chews up yardage and chews up time of possession is the opposite of what the Chiefs want and what high-powered offenses do. It's kind of been like a recipe for that. And the Bills have shown, not with their running game, but through their passing game at multiple points throughout this year, they've shown that they don't need the big chunk plays. They can go 5 yards, 8 yards, 4 yards, 9 yards, 6, and just keep death by 1,000 cuts up the field. In a perfect world, I'm loving to see that. In addition to your points as well, I think it's all interconnected. But if we can get those long drives that end in touchdowns, that's such a perfect world. And the Browns had some of them. They just couldn't capitalize with touchdowns. You had the Higgins fumble and then just not being able to capitalize on other drives. They had a recipe and a formula for it as well. But also to connect to your point, you can't miss. When you have the opportunity to do some damage, you cannot miss. If you've watched The Wire, Omar says it in season 1. Lesson learned, Bay. You come at the king, you best not miss. And when you have the opportunity to take a shot at the king and land a body blow or strike a vital organ, you have to. The Chiefs are that prototypical proverbial. Go ahead. What do you got?
No, so that exact point is I'm really torn because I was frustrated with Josh Allen in this game, not on the first deep pass that missed, but once we realized, hey, the wind's going to be a factor here. It's going to be a problem to be able to go through. And, thank you, Stephen. Very generous. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Once he saw that, there were 4 more times in that game, 3 of them on 3rd and manageable, that he went for a kill shot.
Yep.
And it's hypocritical of me to criticize this, because I would have celebrated like crazy if he hit one of them. But when you see that, hey, the deep ball is going to be tough tonight because of the wind, and we're so good at 3rd and manageable, and we converted the best rate of 3rd down conversions in the entire league, I don't feel like he can take those chances in this game unless he really feels like the play call is there. Several of those were into double coverage, into tight windows, or it was going to take a really impressive play. It wasn't like one play he missed Stephon Diggs, who was wide open and toasted his guy, and that was just the wind took it, or he had too much juice on it, one or the other. I'd like to see him be more comfortable, and it fits into your request for the sustained drives. Yes. Convert those 3rd downs. Give me 12 yards to Diggs on 3rd and 8. You don't have to go for the kill shot. Get it down closer to where if we don't get the kill shot, we get points. Or if we don't get the kill shot, we can go for a field goal. He went for those kill shots in spots where when we missed, we had to punt. And it just put us into a tough spot that, convert those, wait for that chance, then go for the big one. And, if he sees it and we have the right read and Daboll calls the right play, by all means, you take that shot. I don't mind the kill shot, but I hope he's a little bit more disciplined in this game. I think he wanted to end it because it felt right, or it felt good, not because it was necessarily the smartest decision to do. And I hope that, I feel confident they showed him those plays and drilled that in film breakdown that, hey, you had Beasley open here on that play that you took the deep shot. We could have converted, live to fight another day, and then get us into scoring range and then take that shot.
Yep.
So I don't want to lose that. We're not going to all of a sudden stop passing deep. He's really done better with that this year. I hope that we see a little more discipline in this game.
I second that completely, and you are 1,000% right. It does fit in with what I want, and that's a big thing. If we're sitting there at 3rd and 5, and you can think maybe, I could hit this 30-yard pass, but the guarantee is the 6-yard completion over the middle or in the hook curls. Take it. Just keep getting 1st downs, winning on 3rd down. And to your point, it's something that we haven't seen. We saw it in the regular season. Bills led the league in 3rd down conversion percentage, 49%, which is unreal. They were ahead of everybody. Packers were 2nd, also near the 49% mark. But in the postseason, Bills have not been good. It started with the Colts. They weren't good against Baltimore. And that type of inefficiency on offense and the lack of drive sustainability and sustaining those drives is a killer against Kansas City. You cannot do something like give the ball right back to Kansas City. Especially if you
I'll say that on a 3-and-out scenario, that's a turnover. If you choose to go for the kill shot instead of converting and keeping the drive alive, that's akin to a turnover. You're basically choosing to give them the ball back because you didn't have the discipline to fight another day. And I'm nitpicking. Josh Allen has been fantastic. This is, we were joking. How phenomenal is it? If we just ask Bills fans, do you think Josh Allen kind of had a bad game against Baltimore? I think most fans would be like, well, he had a great season, but yeah, it was probably kind of bad.
You're right.
He completed 62% of his passes for over 200 yards, a touchdown, and no turnovers. Isn't it awesome that that's his bad game now? Yep. Isn't that fantastic that that's bad Josh Allen now? It's amazing.
It's awesome to the point that, we have to really go hard to nitpick what he's doing because we're so used to being like, well, he didn't throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, so why is he playing so bad? It's just unreal that we're at that point. And, that's all good. And the efficiency, I think that's what we're driving home. The efficiency, the drive management aspect on both sides of the ball, limiting what they can do, extending what we can do. And I'm glad that you mentioned Josh Allen.
And I like Josh Allen.
Yeah, I just don't know if he can fix his accuracy problem.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
He will have. I still love that. I have it saved, the screenshot saved from the article that was written, that if Josh Allen succeeds in the NFL, the Bills will have defied like every human notion and math itself, because you can't fix. Oh, I love it. It's so beautiful. You and I talked about this last week although we are in alignment that wins are not a QB stat. Again, shout out to Bruce Nolan, the godfather of that. I am a huge proponent of it. This is a win for the Bills here is not a win for Josh Allen. That's not a thing. But we spoke about last week of if the Bills beat the Ravens, what that would do to Josh Allen's status and how he's viewed in the media and in the league, and as he continues to ascend into the upper echelon of quarterback tiers. This game, if the Bills beat the Chiefs, and again, this is more of how quarterbacks are seen because it's a quarterback-driven league, and the wins or the losses, for better or for worse, are usually accredited to quarterbacks more than they are anyone else. If Josh Allen wins this game, and I guess even before that, if Josh Allen wins here and the Bills win here, although again, I don't want anybody to kill me for this. I don't want it. Wins are not a QB stat. Does Josh Allen reach superstar status if the Bills win this game, or do you think he's already there? And also, Anthony Romeo is about to join. I'm going to add him to the stream. Welcome.
You just missed the Trent Murphy segment of the show.
Oh, yeah, God. Your favorite guy. I actually know before we get into some Josh Allen talk, Anthony, I do want to pick your brain on that. You are a major detractor of Trent Murphy, but he played so good against Baltimore. Has he potentially swayed you?
No, do not twist it here. This is what Trent Murphy does. Are you kidding me? Last year, at the end of the year, this guy right here, Greg Tomstead, Aaron Quinn, all them in the preseason, dogged me when I said, cut him. He's useless. Cut him. Replace him with a average somebody off the street for $3 million instead of $9 million, and you would have saved that money. And now I'm obviously dead right on that. But why was everybody so high on him? Oh, he had a good game week 17 against the Jets where nobody played but him because he was useless to his team then. And then it was, the playoff game. He made 2 plays in the playoff game, which if you went back and watched that tape, which I did in the preseason, he didn't make those plays. Other people made plays, and the play came to him, and he was able to get it done. I mean, credit to him for that. But it wasn't just him. It was the other guys making the play too.
So the Trent Murphy jersey that I bought you, don't send it?
Oh, God, man. Listen, Trent Murphy deserves a job. If I were the GM of the Cincinnati Bengals, Trent Murphy, I will pay you whatever you want right now because you absolutely kill Lamar Jackson. You're good against Lamar Jackson. Please come play for us, But for the Bills, again, I've been a hater of – not even a hater. If he's out there, of course I'm rooting for him because he's a Buffalo Bill. But he made plays this week, and I was impressed, and I cheered for him all the way. But –
I'll give my mea culpa. I'll give a full mea culpa. I now believe in hindsight, one of the biggest impacts of not having a standard OTA, minicamp, and preseason is we didn't get to see the team didn't get to fully see what AJ Epinesa was ready to do, and whether Daryl Johnson was ready to take a step forward. And as I advocated for keeping Trent Murphy in kind of an all-in mode of, hey, we don't know what we have there. I'm not ready to just not have a fourth defensive end to rotate in and be part of this. And I hope that the second-round pick is ready to do that. I'm not ready to just give away a functional guy for nothing. In hindsight, obviously, we could have got the exact same production and save that $8 million, and that I would much rather have that $8 million now than having had the safety net of Trent Murphy. But at the time, I think there was sound logic to it. I wish I could have seen
that was
the team scrimmages where you got to see like live reps against another guy for a week long. I think that would have given them the assurance that, hey, just like they did with Shady, they held on to the last minute. They saw Devin Singletary all through camp and preseason, like, hey, we can survive this. We can let him go. I think we would have seen the same.
Yeah, they went with the guy with the higher floor, which was Trent Murphy. You know what he's going to give you and what he can get. Instead of kind of putting more eggs into that rookie basket. But again, in hindsight or in foresight for people like Anthony down below.
The problem was that the one that really set me off, I think, when I was arguing with Greg and Aaron and Bruce Nolan and a few other people on Twitter, when I was like, please cut this guy. And everybody's like, no, we're going all in. And I just was baffled by that. I'm like, you don't go all in by keeping a guy who's overpaid on your bench. Like, you don't go all in with somebody who's playing 20% of your snaps at max, which was the expectation even coming into this season. It's like he's not going to play that match. So, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say now, but obviously I was this passionate about it.
You were. He was. This is not exaggeration,
Accurate.
folks.
No,
For
I
anyone
was.
listening, this is as passionate as he was about it in August as he is right
And
now.
I'm like, please cut this guy. And again, glad he was able to make a play. Please sit on the bench. I never want to see you again. That's where it belongs.
With the injury
There's an
report
injury.
of what we're seeing now, I actually think the Vernon Butler injury is going to be a weird domino that has matter of fact, combined with Daryl Johnson. I think they have to have 9 active linemen, and Quentin Jefferson just plays more D tackle. I expect Trent Murphy to be active for this game, but we'll see whether that matters.
Hey, I hope he makes it play again. Don't get me wrong. I want him,
The hero rides again.
The highlight for me this year was I forget which game it was. 2 plays in a row. 2 plays in a row he got busted, and I was just like, get him off the freaking field. And then he never saw action again after that. So
almost literally. Literally.
Until now.
I was so disappointed
we can circle back now.
we'll circle back. I was so disappointed, Anthony, that you couldn't join right from the start, because I told Greg, I was like, I had sent Greg a message, and I was like, we're going to start with some Trent Murphy talk, just because I want to see what Anthony says. But this worked out so much better with having you join mid and then segueing it. Oh, this is just better than I imagined.
All right. Yeah. I actually am ready to answer your question about Josh Allen and his status.
Yes, let us do that. I want to pull up this comment real quick from Justin. Yes, that really is my view right now. I'm not in Buffalo. I'm in New York City for this day, so it's not fake. And I
that
appreciate
really is
you.
the Empire State Building over his shoulder.
That really is. And then other New York City skyline over that other shoulder. Greg,
nice.
Back to your answer that you have started to go, and then we'll go to Anthony, not me, the other Anthony, because 2 Anthonys are better than 1. Does Josh Allen reach superstar status if the Bills win this game, or is he already there?
So I think the important perspective here is superstar status is not something decided by Bills Mafia or Bills fans. Right. We already know what he is, and he's ascended above that into savior status of what he is for us. You answered it with your comment about Bruce Nolan and his logic. Why does he have to go on a campaign to explain that quarterbacks are not a win stat? You want to know why? Because the national media assigns success to the quarterback. And if Josh Allen takes down Phillip Rivers, defending MVP Lamar Jackson, defending Super Bowl MVP and defending Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes, and then either GOAT Tom Brady or this year's MVP Aaron Rodgers, he is going to reach a level of national prominence that will be like he is then going to be top 3 in NFL jersey sales across the country. He is going to be the obnoxious guy that we see in every other State Farm commercial or all the progressive commercials. He is going to be, because also he's a tall, handsome kid who has an affable personality and is kind of funny. People are going to love him in the right settings of things, and he has one of the power agents as well. He's with the Tom Condon former agency group. I don't think it's Tom anymore, but if he pulls off this run or even gets to the Super Bowl and has a shootout, and just looks, wins this game and then gets to the Super Bowl and has a shootout, he is going to ascend into a national prominence that we have never seen, because when the Bills were great, it was pre-social media and pre this 24/7 world, and there wasn't all the coverage that exists now, that we never got to see. Bruce Smith should have been how Aaron Donald was talked about, and that there were entire show segments breaking down his pass rush moves and all those. We never got to see that, and that superstar status when we had 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on the same squad with the coach at the same time. That's the kind of error he's going to get into if he wins this game. And I do think he needs to win it. I think that now he'd be in everybody considers him really, really good, and he's in that next tier, but we would love him, and some people would argue that he's the 3rd or 4th best quarterback. If he wins this, you will now have maybe not literally Stephen A. Smith and Nick Wright and Skip Bayless, but those talking heads on the shows that now it's going to lead the Chiron saying, is Josh Allen more valuable than Patrick Mahomes? And somebody's going to make that case because it's going to be good talk and good discussion. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of air he can get into with a win here.
Oh, all right, Anthony, what do you think? Echo those same sentiments?
Definitely similar thinking points there. I mean, you nailed it, right? It's the difference between what Bills Mafia thinks and what the world thinks as a whole, right? And how do you, if we're thinking like Bruce Nolan, how do you define superstar? What pieces make up superstar?
That's very good.
What pieces? How do we, now let's break it up. Because the thing for me is Baker Mayfield a superstar? No, he hasn't done crap in this league. Are you kidding me? Putting him as a superstar? But the guy's in every commercial. The guy makes more money in ads than anybody in the NFL.
Do you think
because he was the first overall pick and he had one good rookie season, and then all of a sudden literally every football game I watch, I'm like, why is Baker in every commercial?
Question for you right there. Do you think, and then continue your thought. I'm sorry to get you off, but I got a question. Do you think if you're going through the rest of the country, who do you think is more recognizable throughout the rest of the United States, Baker Mayfield or Josh Allen?
Right now, I would still say it's Baker, even though because he's in the commercials, right?
Maybe
my wife
fantasy.
Watch Bills football, she'd say, "Oh yeah."
Maybe fantasy. That might be the only offset is how many people play fantasy football, and he ended the season as the highest scoring player in all of fantasy football, depending on the format.
That's a good point.
There's a chance, but I actually think you're right. I think like if you ask wives and grandmas across the country, more of them know Baker Mayfield than know Josh Allen.
And again, maybe it's because he was the first overall pick, and he had that good year, and everybody's like, "Oh,
They took a gamble that they were getting in early, and that the rookie year was just the beginning, and they gambled that hey, we're getting in early on this guy. He's going to be the resurgence behind Cleveland. That's going to be an awesome story. Let's sign up with that early." And they obviously prepaid because they would have taken that money back by now.
I'm on record as a Baker hater. I don't like the guy's attitude. I don't like him as a quarterback. He was the one guy that year that I said, please do not draft this guy. I do not want him no matter what. But, I'll give him credit. He's had a decent year this year. He certainly was in the beginning of the year. I was saying his team was winning in spite of him, not because of him. Yeah. But at the end, he won a playoff game. He got there.
Awesome question here. I want to hear your guys' quick answer. In the movie that inevitably is going to happen, and we'll play, we'll play Hot Tub Time Machine here, that an actor currently that's ready to play this, who is the guy who plays Josh Allen in the movie?
Ooh. Oh, I have my answer. Liam Neeson, because somebody takes one of Josh Allen's kids and then he has a special set of skills that will allow him to get the kids back, but the skill is just throwing footballs through walls and hitting criminals.
I dig it. Anthony, do you have one?
Ooh, I'm still thinking. That's a good question. Okay. So it's got to be somebody like super recognizable, like, Hugh Jackman or somebody like that, but it's younger, Yeah.
So looks, he started out kind of doughy and goofy and likable and then became a super rocked up superstar, Chris Pratt.
Oh, I was going to say, I was
Chris Pratt. Take Chris Pratt from Community and from Parks and Rec, and then his journey through becoming Star-Lord and what he looked like in those movies. And honestly, they look kind of similar. Chris Pratt is going to play Josh Allen in the Josh Allen.
That's a lot of.
That is a well thought out answer because he does kind of look like him in that.
Yeah, and you've got some Chris Pratt in the chat. We've got some Chris Hemsworth, some Chris Evans. So basically, anybody with the first name Chris.
Any Chris. Yeah.
Pick a Chris, any Chris. Yeah. So getting back to Izzy superstar status and how he gets there, we talked about this a little bit on our Tuesday show in terms of what he has left to prove. I said, if he wins the Super Bowl, he could gain 50 pounds, never throw another pass, and he will be worshipped forever as the superstar in Buffalo. Yep. Period. No matter whatever happens again. If he wins the Super Bowl, it's over. He's a superstar. But for the NFL, I think what he has to do now, because you could think of guys who had one great year and then disappeared. Carson Wentz, even Lamar Jackson last year was certainly, everybody was labeling him a superstar. He still is to me, but, certainly not the expectations people had for him coming into this year. Josh Allen has to maintain it. That's all he has to do is maintain what he did this year, next year. I'm not talking like literal, he has to hit the same number of yards. If he's 100 yards short, he certainly still had a good year. If he's two touchdowns short,
the
He's
range that like the Russell Wilsons and
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers go to. Every
Yes.
season isn't an MVP caliber season, but their range is elevated.
So I think if he can do that again next year, I compared it to Pat Mahomes, right? Pat Mahomes' rookie year was unbelievable when he played, but they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, right? And then the next year, he won MVP, but they didn't make it. Then the next year, he won the Super Bowl. So he's proven consistently. That's why, hands down, he's the biggest superstar in the NFL. If people ask that question, he's the first name that pops up. Josh Allen can do that now he's gotten to the AFC Championship game. It's still unwritten what's going to happen the rest of this season. But now if he comes out next year and continues it, he's going to be the superstar in the NFL. And the thing with Josh Allen is that even Pat Mahomes can't say is he's done nothing but get better every single year. So the only logical answer here is that Josh Allen's going to be even better next year, which is insane to even think, but it's the only logical thing anybody could say at this point.
Yep. I mean, leads right into Angus's question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Has Josh hit his ceiling, or will he make it? Anthony Prohaska, why don't you start on this one?
So I was literally about to click on that. You see, always in my head, Greg.
Very sneaky.
Very sneaky, sir. To connect it with the initial point that we were talking about of Josh Allen and his superstar status, I think that superstar status is tied to national media perception, talking heads, the grandmas and the regular people who live in the center of the country who don't watch football all the time and they really just watch the primetime games and stuff. Do they know you or not? And I think beating Pat Mahomes here puts him into another tier, but I think he has to win a Super Bowl to solidify it and then continue on that trajectory next year, much like what Anthony said. And that's perfect with the question here from Angus. Has Josh hit a ceiling or will he make another jump? I don't think he's hit his ceiling. You have, and I don't want people to try and roast us for, it's because you're homers or you're Bills fans, yada, yada. This was a guy who came into the league in that quarterback class. We had such variety with what Baker could do. Darnold, Lamar, Allen, and Rosen. And I think the uniform consensus for Josh Allen was that he had the highest ceiling, but he also had the lowest floor. He could be one of the best QBs in the league, or he could be out in a year and a half, 2 years. He was not polished. He lacked a lot of mechanical development. He was just below in certain metrics. And Greg and I spoke about this way earlier in the year. A lot of that was the product of he wasn't going to these elite camps in high school. He wasn't playing this awesome competition, whether against or with. He went to Wyoming, no disrespect to Wyoming, but he wasn't playing with regular high caliber NFL talent or playing against it. So he had to develop.
NFL practice squad skipper Tanner Gentry is the best player he played with in college. He can't catch on to an NFL roster.
Correct. So
he
that's
was
what
the best player he played with.
There you go. That's what he was working with. Again, no disrespect to them. But with what we saw Allen do from year 1 to year 2, and then from year 2 to this year in year 3, I don't think it's out of the question to say that he can make another jump. Whether or not that jump could be as significant as year 2 to year 3, I think that would be a little hard to do. But this is a guy who's still growing just in his ability to play quarterback, his mental processing ability, his ability to read the game, his ability to mentally play the quarterback position should, in theory, only get better. And when you combine that with his physical raw tools and the work ethic that he's put into the physical and mechanical work of playing quarterback, I don't think it's ridiculous at all to say that he'll continue to make another jump.
So jump and ceiling are relative. So
Fair.
I think we see an improvement.
Yes.
I don't think he's hit his ceiling.
Yes.
That doesn't mean we see better stats next year.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. Fair.
Or,
very fair.
honestly, it's not out of the question that 4,600 passing yards and 50 total freaking touchdowns is not his career year. That's not out of the question. You know, people have won the MVP with 4,238 touchdowns. Yeah. He can make an improvement and not have hit his ceiling yet, and it can be a trade-off. There's an opportunity cost where he's better and makes fewer mistakes and helps keep our passing game at the level it is, but opens up more good run calls and is able to make more good decisions that don't necessarily result in increased passing yardage or passing touchdowns, but he could be better. So I don't think it's all of a sudden that he hasn't hit a ceiling. He's going to improve, and we're saying that means 5,500 yards and 60 touchdowns. It's just that he can get better, and we will see it in the consistency of his play.
Yeah, the only thing else, I think it's literally impossible for him to take as large of a leap as he did this year, right? Because that's just
it's
astronomical, high, right?
Yeah.
So, but the one thing Josh Allen has done, and I've been saying this all year, I said it in the preseason, it's why I did predict Allen to take a jump this year. Certainly didn't see him going quite this far, but I said he would be in the MVP race because his team was going to win at least 12 games, and he was going to be the reason they won, period. So, but Josh Allen, the one thing he's done that no other quarterback in the NFL, at least that I can think of or ever that I've seen, has grown this linearly in his career, completely linearly. So what happens now? Well, he's on that linear growth. Now it's just what happens to the slope of that line, right? So you had the slopes here. He's still going to take another spot up next year, but it's going to, he's slowly reaching what that ceiling or his peak performance or best play will be. So, yeah, I mean, he's done certainly better than any QB in history in my mind of getting better at every single aspect of the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
If you're going to put a top at it, I don't think it's out of the question. I don't know that I'd say it's likely. He's one of the few people who could break the records that Patrick Mahomes and Peyton Manning set. Like, that's within the range of possible outcomes, is that Josh Allen has that crazy Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes season where it's like 55, 56 touchdowns and 5,400 yards, I believe. That is, obviously NFL record breaking is anybody's ceiling because only one or two humans have ever done it. He is one of the few people who that's in the possible range of outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And again, it's a good point here. I think the key is don't confuse statistical regression or improvement with the ability to overall increase or make another jump. He could throw for less touchdown passes next year and still be a better quarterback than he was this year. So don't
Patrick Mahomes regressed in the season he won the Super Bowl.
Correct. That's exactly
He was worse than his MVP season, and he was still phenomenal and won the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And I want to pull up – we're getting so many great comments. And first of all, thank you so much for your donation, John. Again, another one of the many aspects of the lifeblood that is at Cover One. And his question here, can we talk at who Josh Allen had in 2018? No offensive lineman except Dawkins still in the league. No number one, number two wide receiver. The dynamic
duo. Did you guys see the graphic that he's referencing that was floating around?
Yes.
Somebody did a graphic that showed every single player that Josh Allen played with and like what their stats were this year or if they're out of the league. And it's like Logan Thomas and everyone else is out of the league. Like that was the whole list.
That's a good point there from John there. And I guess I want to ask this as we're still talking about Josh Allen. Anthony, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think Allen would have had, and I mean, I guess this is relative, but if he had a better supporting cast in some form or fashion, how much do you think of a better rookie year does Josh Allen have? Or do you think because of how raw he was coming out of college, he's still going to have that level of inconsistency that he had in his rookie season?
Better is a relative term for sure. Yep. I mean, God, if those guys caught a few more passes, he would have had a better. How many of those were deflected off of them and got intercepted? I mean, we watched those games. We know what happened. Could it have been better with better talent? Absolutely. But the joy of Josh Allen is the reason he's so good is he's able to do self-reflection and say, I can get better at this. Here's what I didn't do well. Here's how I need to get better at it. If Josh Allen didn't have as many turnovers his rookie year, that might not have been something he focused on and said, I need to do better at this. If he had receivers to throw downfield, maybe he wouldn't have focused on, okay, how can I pass the ball more than I run the ball next year, right? And it's those things that's his mindset. He says, here's what I need to do better. Here's how I can get better. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to work toward that. And that's what he's done.
And I think that you combine that with, like you said, the relative scale of it. So maybe if he has a better surrounding cast, instead of 52% completion percentage, he has 55 or 56. I don't think that all of a sudden he has there are plenty of those. So we saw the ones that bounced off their hands. We saw the ones that went 5 yards over their guys' heads out of bounds too. Like he wasn't ready. And that wasn't their intention. Like, granted, I am as big of a Sean McDermott advocate as exists. I am his champion in all discussions. he still did start Nathan Peterman twice by his own choice. Like, he chose to do that 2 times. The plan was that we would go out and get a caretaker style quarterback, AJ McCarron, and or Nathan Peterman. And I'm going to say another name here. Josh Allen was supposed to be on the Patrick Mahomes plan. He was supposed to sit for 15 games and then get a couple reps in the last game of the season and then be ready in season 2. And if the timelines merged, and that's not possible with the way that they had to eat the salary cap, all the dead cap space in the second year, and they could only afford to add Beasley and John Brown the year after that. But if somehow they were able to sit him the first year, and then Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and John Brown all came in that second year, it's not out of the question that we would have seen a more Mahomes-like curve for Josh Allen, in that him getting a whole year to refine things and then diving into it. We had to see him suffer and learn and struggle, and that it ended up being, I think Anthony's spot on. That is his fuel of how he got to this level. And maybe he doesn't hit the peak that we saw without those public struggles driving him every moment, that he didn't give up and stop working out or stop trying to work on those things. But it's funny how those different things could have happened slightly differently.
Yeah. And I think to your point, you mentioned briefly, but he grew with the coaching staff that grew now too, right? Pat Mahomes went to one of the most veteran coaches in the world
with phenomenal weapons from day one.
Exactly. So that was a situation where this team was, we got Josh Allen. Now what? Okay, well, I'm a head coach who doesn't quite know what I'm doing yet. I'm an offensive coordinator who's brand new and has no idea what I'm doing. And many fans wanted him fired for 2 years. So, I mean, they've grown together, which is such a huge thing with this team too.
And I think Randy echoes your comments earlier that having him struggle through that, I think in the long run was the best case scenario. Even if it was scary and frustrating and having to learn how to do more with less, I think he's going to end up better for it because of it in the long run.
Yeah, I echo that as well. I think that it's similar and on par to as painful and as terrible as it was, the Cardinals' loss this year. How many times it's been pointed out that loss, and it's been said by the players as well, was kind of a moment that galvanized everybody, and they were like, all right, no more messing around. The focus has to be better. The execution has to be better, and it's one of those lose the battle to potentially win the war type of things.
Having it burn in their belly through the whole bye week.
Exactly. Beautiful. Letting it burn. Ooh, a little Usher there. Let it burn. And the rookie year, I think, was a little baptism by fire for Allen, got him a little more motivated, almost in the same aspect as losing to Houston last year in the playoffs, where it just sat and stuck in his craw and fueled him and made him get better. And I also wanted to circle back to the point regarding Mahomes, because it's never ending where we constantly see, if you go back to the draft, do the Bills trade that pick or shouldn't? They should have taken Mahomes. They should have taken Mahomes. People seem to not recognize the context of the situation that Patrick Mahomes was put into, exactly like you guys said, the coaching staff that he was drafted by, the weaponry that he was already surrounded by, and then the plan of sit your rookie year, you're going to learn behind a very intelligent, very smart quarterback in Alex Smith who knows anything and everything about the system that you're going into. People often overlook that, just like they overlook the fact that even when the Chiefs took Mahomes there, this wasn't like oh my God, the Chiefs just got the best guy in the league. People were like, you know what, actually, it might be a little early. I had a second-round grade on him, but you know what? He's a great fit for Andy Reid's system. Let's see what happens. People tend to overlook that, and then when you juxtapose it with his first year, which was really his second, and then you compare how Allen struggled, it's obviously apples to oranges in the system and context that they were in. But to bring it all full circle, I think as we echo, I think that rookie year – initially, the plan was let him sit behind and learn the game and let it come to him. But in the long run, as we see in year 3, I wouldn't change a thing about the path that he was on. What he learned both on the field and off, the adversity that he faced and the fire that it created in him and how it drove him and shaped him. And I'm thinking of Batman with Bane, like the darkness molded by it. That's exactly like what he was. And the person, the constant chip on the shoulder Josh Allen that we see now, I don't know if you necessarily, and I'm going to even say I don't know, I don't think you have that Josh Allen without a lot of the adversity he faced in that rookie year.
Yeah, I think you're spot on.
Oh man, that was an intense Josh Allen conversation.
Yeah, I like
that.
it.
And from one quarterback to another quarterback, Obviously talking about Jake Fromm. He was on the injury report today for the Bills, so big deal. No, Patrick Mahomes, quarterback of the Chiefs, the health of Pat Mahomes. I think the concussion is a bit, I don't want to say overplayed, but he's going to play with that. I think the larger concern and the larger focus and effort is the toe injury that he suffered against Cleveland. And Greg, I want to start with you because we started talking about the Bills defense, Chiefs offense matchup in the beginning, and we got a lot of questions of how do you attack Patrick Mahomes in this game because of that toe? Do you blitz him from that right side and make him roll to the left and have to use that left toe? Do you think Frazier and McDermott maybe ratchet up a little more pressure and come after him early to test him and sort of establish some things? How does his overall health in that toe affect what the game plan and the overall flow of this game for you? Or do you think it's a non-issue?
So Toradol is an amazing drug. I don't think he'll be able to feel anything from the kneecap down. I think that it's somewhat limiting. He has good pocket mobility. He's not a Josh or Kaiir or Lamar level scrambler, but he picks up his share of frustrating 3rd and 5s with his legs. I think that that's lessened. I think it would be naive to think that he can't move because, again, there are some excellent pharmaceuticals that they can use to make sure that he isn't able to suffer from that pain. I think that means he's not going to be quite as nimble. He's not going to be quite as comfortable with the rollouts and things like that. But, you saw that sprint out that he had on the option play. He picked up that play with his legs on the run late in that game after being hobbled with the toe. So in the moment where he just needs to gut it out through adrenaline, he still has it. So now I would like to test that. Before you jumped on, we talked about some of the simulated pressures where 7 guys mugged up at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't know which 4 are coming. Right, that doesn't need to be a blitz. Yes. That doesn't necessarily need to be a blitz, but you can disguise who is coming and still drop 7. I hope that they use that as a weapon to test him. Don't let him roll to the open side of the field. Mm-hmm. Don't let him roll where he's comfortable with to his right. Make him roll left. Bring that, overloaded pressure from the right side. Yes. Sweep him back that way. I'd like them to test that early. I'm not planning on it being a game-changing element because, like Josh Allen, he has a bazooka attached to his right shoulder and can make off-platform throws that only 3 of the 4 quarterbacks left in the league right now are capable of doing. Mm-hmm. He can still do those things. So I think he's maybe 95% of actual Patrick Mahomes, but 95% of the actual Patrick Mahomes is still really freaking good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a question that's been bugging me for a while now. Since that game when he got hurt, I was like, oh God, here we go. Because I want Pat Mahomes to be able to play in this game and play at his best. And what is his best? Well, I've seen a ton of Kansas City games this year just because of where I live, and that's what's on TV here, right? So all year long, I've been saying Pat Mahomes in the MVP conversation is ridiculous this year, and I don't care if it's only because of his name that he's even there, and the fact that they're winning. The MVP of that team has been Travis Kelce to me, but the point on Mahomes is he hasn't looked the same this year to me, and I actually said before this postseason started, like, maybe he does have one of those injuries where they don't put him on the injury report, but then at the end of the season it comes out, oh, he had this, calf issue that was bothering him, and that's why he wasn't able to do quite what he did the past 2 years. And to Greg's point, he's Pat Mahomes. He's a superstar. He has all the talent. He's been able to win games. He's been able to get it done, and that's all they've needed to do. But now that he's hurt, I'm like, okay, I want to ask every Chiefs fan out there. I want to ask every Chiefs reporter out there. I want to ask every talking head out there before the kickoff. Is Pat Mahomes 100% or no? Is Pat Mahomes' injury going to play a factor or no? Because you can't say no now, and then when the Buffalo Bills kick their ass.
Oh, just wait. Just wait.
His turf toe was clearly the reason that the Bills defense blitzed him 5 times and sacked him 5 times and got to the ground. Oh, his aching turf toe was the reason he threw 2 interceptions or something. Like, no, I'm not having that at all.
Just wait.
No, it's going to happen. I know, but it's to me, something has been off with him all year. It hasn't been off enough to where it's caused them to lose.
Yeah.
But
his offseason is still like 4,400 yards and 38 touchdowns.
Still in the top 5 or 10 in the NFL, period, in the conversations. But, again, I think if he's injured and it plays a factor, the Bills need to attack it regardless. If he's not as mobile because of the turf toe, even if it's numb, he's not going to be as mobile. I mean, they just as Greg said, everything you said, I was applauding. We just talked about it on the podcast that we recorded for tomorrow, too, that attacking that right side, disguising those coverages, lining up everybody, and then seeing who falls back. I mean, that's going to be so key to just confusing Mahomes at the line. And that's not easy to do. The guy can still be confused and then complete a pass to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce and drive down the field. But it might be the difference in this game in terms of how many times we're able to stop Mahomes versus how many times that defense is able to stop our offense. So I like our odds.
Greg and I hit on that earlier, Anthony, almost in that same regard, and talking about like how to limit Mahomes and trying to disguise pressures and coverages to do whatever you can to confuse him post-snap, pre-snap, anything and everything, because he is such a good processor of the game and that ability to play quarterback mentally in addition to his physical ability. And as far as the health, I'm on that same boat. I got no problem coming out and blitzing him right out of the gate. I want to test the toe. I want to test the mobility. I do think, Greg, your point is really good. People forget about the running that he was doing in the back half of the Cleveland game before the neck injury / choke out / whatever it was that knocked him out of that game, which looks to be more nerve related and neck related than anything else. But yeah, test that toe. Let's see how mobile he actually is. I don't think he's 100. I don't think, again, to echo the sentiments of us here, I don't think he's 50%. And it's going to be the thing that is, you're going to be seeing him like, oh, he's unable to do this specific thing. But to Anthony's point, I do think it will be something that if the Chiefs lose, it's like, well, I mean, he wasn't healthy. You can clearly see that he blew his nose on the sideline and his toe looked like it hurt when he did it. So,
I'm telling you, I can already hear the announcers and everybody being like, oh, well, Pat Mahomes clearly isn't 100% in this game. It's like,
Josh Allen played that first Kansas City game with a separated shoulder.
Yeah, awesome point. I was going to get to that. Nobody talks about that with the injury. The Raiders.
The Bills got beat. Bills got beat by the Chiefs. The reason they lost was not because Josh Allen was playing with the shoulder sling and shoulder harness on, but he did, and that was a factor of it. It's just we don't use it as an excuse. That's not why they lost.
Mm-hmm.
It is something to monitor, though, and anything that I think limits him does help the Bills' case, but I also think we're all in pretty good alignment here. I want full-bore Pat Mahomes. I want to beat the Chiefs at 100%. I don't want anyone giving us – I don't want any caveat to any Bills victory for anything. I don't want any but to anything for how long we've waited and what we want and what we need and what we deserve as Bills fans and how much we love this team and how good it is. I don't want any caveats in any way, shape, or form, and you will 1,000% get that from regular talking heads, Chiefs supporters. Well, yeah, buddy, I mean, like Mahomes' toe. So no, I do not want that. I don't think any of us do. And we started to highlight some of the things as we start to wrap this up and wind down and go to our last segment here. The differences in these two teams since they last played in Week 6. They did play in Week 6. The Chiefs won that game. But since that game, the Chiefs have not been the world beaters that they are, to Anthony's point, necessarily made out to be. So we've seen the Chiefs, as we wind down the season, they beat the Panthers by 2 points. And again, you still have to win. Winning close games and winning when you're not at your best is still a thing that good football teams do.
Absolutely.
But they beat the Panthers by 2 points. They beat the Raiders by 4. They beat the Bucks by 3. They beat the Broncos by 6 in a game that the Broncos very easily could have won.
Yep.
They let Miami hang around for a long time in a game that Patrick Mahomes was made to be very inefficient in the early stages of that game. But again, that game can also point to the fact that he was made to be inefficient and then all of a sudden rattled off a whole bunch of points.
A good team would have been up by Kansas City 27-10 at halftime in that game.
Yeah. Fair enough. But Miami, that Tua time, not so good there. The Chiefs then beat the Saints by 3, then beat the Atlanta Falcons on basically the last possession of the game and won that game by 3 to end the end of the year. And Anthony, I want to lead with you because you have been a very large proponent of the Chiefs being overhyped this year, Patrick Mahomes being overhyped. And we mentioned some of their win differentials and point differentials as they've gone down the year. What are your thoughts in the trajectory of both the Bills and the Chiefs in getting to this point since they last met each other in week 6 of this year.
I honestly think there's more differences than there are similarities. Almost nothing is the same from week 6 till now. And to your point, good teams win, period. Good teams win, period. And they found a way to win despite playing terribly. I was watching that Broncos game. I was watching that Falcons game because they were on here again.
Yep.
And the whole time I'm like, God, just do one thing right and you beat them. Like, come on. You literally are trying to lose this game. The Chiefs didn't win it. The other team lost it, basically. But the Chiefs found a way to win. Good teams win. And to Steve's point there, Matt Milano, I again, tooting my own horn here. Since way long ago, since last year, I've said, extend Matt Milano. When Matt Milano's in there, defense good. When Matt Milano not in there, defense bad. Period. You don't have to be any kind of rocket scientist, football knowledgeable person to know this. When Matt Milano is on this Buffalo Bills defense, I've said it many times over and over again, like, come on. It's that simple. I don't know if he's a morale boost to those guys. I don't know if it's just simply that him being there playing his position allows other people to focus more on their position, and they do it better. But literally every single guy on that offense, defense, top to bottom, is better when Matt Milano's out there. And it starts
12-0. Linebacker wins.
Was injured in that hurt. Trey White was injured in that game. It was just such an ugly
Cam
game.
Lewis was playing for a bench, Taron Johnson.
And I'll go one step further. One of the things we talked about, again, we just recorded the podcast for tomorrow, so check it out, but I'll tell you a little hint ahead of time. One of the things we talked about that was asked was, if the Bills approached this game with the same game plan as they did in the Week 6 game, would they win? And my answer was a hands-down absolute yes. No question about it. Why? Because Josh Allen's healthy. Our offense is better. Josh Allen, as we said, had played with a separated shoulder in that game. Our defense, Matt Milano's out there. All these guys are out there. So not only is our defense going to hold them better, our offense is going to score more. And they beat us. But, I mean, that alone, that combination alone, yes, absolutely. Let them run for 300 yards this game. They're not going to win, period. I don't think they'll win if that happens. I think our offense is more efficient and will score and hold them and stop them. So if you can stop, I mean, I guess we didn't stop Kelsey last time. He had 2 touchdowns, but but we stopped Tyreek Hill. He certainly didn't have a huge game against us.
3 for 20.
Our wide receiver core completely, pretty much. So, yeah, I think if you do that in this game, it's a win because our defense is that much healthier and means that much more to this team right now.
So you had a couple other pieces. JM in the chat brought up our starting guards in that game were Cody Ford and Brian Winters.
Yeah,
now we have John Feliciano and Ike Bacher. We're seeing that was also the weird one because we had that stretch with the shuffling of the schedules, and we also had the weird tight end room that was all of a sudden COVID positive. So different pieces that I think the Bills are undoubtedly a better team now than where they were at that point. Mm-hmm. When you combine that with every metric shows the Chiefs are not the caliber of team they were early in the season when they were blowing the doors off of people. Their special teams has taken a huge step back. Their defense has lost some pretty critical pieces in different spots. They said everybody can name 3 players on the Chiefs defense because everybody knows Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark. Yes. And then most people can't name a 4th defender on the entire defense. And as you go through there, they've lost some pieces. They're also rotating through another offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. They've had different things going there. I can't wait to see Jerry Hughes against Mike Remmers. That's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to those different battles that are taking place. I think Ed Oliver has an opportunity for a breakout national TV prominence game. I think they need to capitalize on those. I think they need to do that. But I think all those differences, virtually all of them tilt Buffalo's way since that Week 6 game. Now, that by itself doesn't mean this is all of a sudden going to decide it for them. It just means that any of the people that are talking about this as some underdog versus David versus Goliath thing, these are 2 incredibly evenly matched teams, and you can make the case that today the Bills are the slightly better team between the 2. So they're the defending champs. They have the defending Super Bowl MVP. It's in their home. There's a reason Vegas has them favored. There's also a reason they're only favored by 3.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, even Vegas is smart here. They're saying there's 2 teams that are evenly matched. The biggest the line has been is 3.5, I think. So between 2.5 and 3.5, usually home field automatically gets you 3. So they're telling you this Buffalo has a chance.
Ooh, coin flip. 2 points here that I know. Pump up, Bill. I know Anthony would love this. So Trent Murphy and Harrison Phillips revenge game for being benched last time, and then comment from Steve Noble. The biggest difference in Steve Noble's mind. Trent Murphy has been rested for a week. Fresh.
So, semi-serious note, Trent Murphy's not going to win us anything. Harrison Phillips has been playing noticeably better. Harrison Phillips is like, if we're – so one thing we talked about earlier, I won't rehash everything, but for you, Anthony, we talked about how your game plan point, where part of that was we were taunting them with 5-man boxes and daring them to run the ball. Well, now, the way the defensive line is playing and a healthy Milano and Edmonds, maybe we can do that and rally and tackle so that he's not running for 12-yard runs. Maybe it's more 4- and 5-yard runs. That is a huge difference in what this could do to that game plan, where the plan wasn't terrible. It just wasn't executed all that well.
That's exactly what it was. And the aspect of where these two teams are, and Greg, your coin flip is getting some love in the chat there. It's such an interesting point because we're talking about Kansas City, or I'm sorry, we're not. Kansas City is being talked about as if
every show,
as if they are still the exact same juggernaut and team they are, or that they were last year. And all respect to them, they are the defending Super Bowl champs, and we do know, as we spoke about earlier in the show, they do have that ability to flick the switch, and when they do, they are deadly, they are lethal. They are unstoppable. But if you look at these... You touched
on that Atlanta game. That Atlanta game is as good of an example as exists. They were dog crap for that entire game, and then they needed the game-winning touchdown drive, and it was just precision surgery down the field. And it was, that's them. Okay, there it is.
And there you go. And they end up with that win in a moment that we've seen.
Missed field goal.
Oh, God. And even that should have gone to OT. They've had so many moments, and when you look at the trajectory that these teams have been on, I don't think it's wrong at all to say that the Bills have been the better team since week 6. Mm-hmm. And when you look at all the things that we started to talk about, Matt Milano being back is a massive one. We already mentioned the Bills being undefeated with him. With him, the Bills are allowing 18.6 points per game. Without him, they are allowing 29.8 points per game. I believe the rushing stat numbers without him, they're allowing like 120 or 128 roughly rushing yards per game. With him, they're allowing only 94. He makes a massive difference. The two Anthonys on the show right now are massive proponents of Matt Milano. I am also massively on the extend Matt Milano train, bandwagon, whatever you want to call it, for a variety of reasons. He makes a big difference. Tremaine Edmonds being healthy this time makes a big difference. Taron Johnson being in form makes a big difference. The Harrison Phillips one, Greg, is also a tremendous one. Eric and I on the Cover One Film Room this week went over the Bills' game plan against the Ravens, and I wish I remembered it in my brain, but the stat that Eric put out, I believe since the bye week, I think Harrison Phillips is like the second best graded defensive tackle in the NFL. He's put up some ridiculous numbers and comps, and the performance that he had against Baltimore was tremendous. We saw that swim move where he immediately blew up the run play. He's been stout in run defense. He's not completely made the need for a true one tech go away, but he's definitely mitigated what that hole was, and he's really started to solidify some things. And I think credit to him for that injury, coming off of the injury that he was coming off of last year, being at that size and the position and the weight, you need some time to kind of round into form and get a little bit healthier. And he's been so much better. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can really see the coaching staff rewarding him, right? He's kind of quietly gotten more snaps every week, and then slowly you start seeing him in plays, meaning they're calling his name in the plays, and you're like, oh, wow, Phillips is out there more than we thought. Oh, yeah, wow, he's actually playing better than we expected or thought because, he was on the bench for the majority of the season. But I think, being healthy, getting more snaps, being able to play back to his form, he's really fitting in well with this defense. And maybe that's been the difference in how they've continued to grow into the postseason.
Yeah, he's made a difference, and our defense has gotten healthier. I think that's the biggest one that we've all touched on here and there, or at least it's the biggest one for me. The form of the defense, the health of the defense, I think makes someone in the comments and in the chat put it in there. Forgive me for not pulling it up, whoever was that made the comment. But if both teams bring their A game, and that's what we always like to compare. If both teams, or both opponents, whatever, bring their best and are 100%, who wins with their best? If the Bills bring their best and the Chiefs bring their best, the Bills are the better overall complete football team. If you look at all three phases, I think. And I don't think this should be a shock to Bills fans. If the Chiefs offense is on their A game and the Bills offense is on their A game, the Chiefs offense is better than the Bills offense. But if we're looking at defense, but it's close, much to Greg's point earlier, it's close. But if the Bills defense is on their A game and the Chiefs are, there's a larger discrepancy there. And if the special teams aspects are on their A game, there is a larger discrepancy there than there is between the Bills offense.
Way more than the gap on offense. The gap on offense is 99th and 98th percentile kind of stuff. Whereas the defense, we're not 99, but we might be 85 and they're like 65.
Right.
Like it's a much bigger gap on defense. And special teams might be further. I said the weighted DVOA we talked about before he jumped on, the Bills are second and they're 28th. Yeah, it's enormous.
Yeah. And the special teams, the Bills for the majority of your weighted DVOA, again, factoring in recency into that performance, they're second. Majority of the year, they've been top 5 and they've been 4th. Their special teams has been solid all year. It's a very underrated aspect.
I think this is like we're hitting on the number one thing that frustrates me about the media in general. These guys are supposed to be football analysts. Well, then analyze the football and stop analyzing what people want to hear, right? Look, there's something to be said for what you said earlier. Kansas City is the defending champions. Kansas City continues to win games. Kansas City is still the team to beat. But when you look at the football, the Bills are the better team coming into this game. The Bills have had the better year coming into this game. It's just blows my mind that you still hear all these talking heads say, oh, the Bills have no chance, or, oh, Kansas City's got to do this, that, and Kansas City's moving on. And it's just like, well, talk about the football. Talk about the fact that the Bills don't have a hole on defense. There's no weakness to this Bills defense. We're good at everything. We have strengths, but we certainly don't have like, oh, that's the glaring weakness of this team. Whereas Kansas City, like Greg said, they've got 3 names and then that's it. They've got stars, but then that's it. There's
their
holes.
Front 7 is 2 players and a bunch of below average players.
Their linebacking core, like I don't even know.
Their
what those
secondary
guys
is decent. Their secondary is decent. Their front 7, besides Chris Jones and Frank Clark, is poor.
Yeah. No. Greg, you had an awesome point on the Cover One Buffalo podcast last night that if AJ Klein was a Chief, he's probably an every down starter for the Chiefs.
Oh, yes.
That's not an exaggeration. Like they would be thankful to have AJ Klein.
And let's get to this one last question here from M. Bishop, and thank you for the donation. Tremendously appreciative. What represents the Bills' best, quote unquote, from their running game, the closeout versus Pittsburgh? Greg, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think is the best running performance we've seen from the Bills' running game this year?
I forgot what running the ball is like.
I know, right? Because we just come out and throw it like 1,000 times.
Yeah, so I will say the way that they put their foot on the throat at the end of the game in Pittsburgh was what I cared about. I don't want to be a running team. I don't want to be a balanced team. I want the fact that when we run the ball, it's effective. Yeah. I don't care if that's 8 times or 12 times or 16 times in a game. I care that when we run the ball, it's effective. And that the time that you need to run the ball effectively is when the other team knows you're going to run and you're trying to just, sink them down into the earth and end the game. They did that to an incredible degree in the Pittsburgh game. Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin punted with 7 minutes left in the game and they never got the ball back. So that's the kind of run game that I want, is where we pass for the first 3 quarters and then we take the wind out of their sails with the running game when we need to. But yeah, that's probably our strongest performance from that standpoint. I think there were better games. Maybe the Raiders game, we had a little bit better running game early, a couple spots early in the season. There was a game where both Moss and Singletary both had 70+ yards. There's a couple
game they ran well.
Yeah, there's a couple of those floating around that one Pats game was probably a pretty good example. That probably technically were a better overall run game, but it's something that all I care about is a little bit of efficiency when we do it. Otherwise, just keep chucking the rock.
Yeah, I agree almost 100% with everything you absolutely said. The most efficient run game the Bills have is ignoring the run game. And I don't mean not running the ball. I mean, you don't see it, right? It's not what pops out at you, right? It's the end of the game, just handing the ball off, and that's how you're running out the clock. You're controlling the clock. the one thing Josh Allen has done phenomenally well, especially in the playoffs, is play action. He's changed the call at the line of scrimmage. He's used the play action to look like he's handing it off and then complete a pass. And those plays where they've done the dink and dunk, where we've stopped running the ball completely, but you throw the ball 1 yard and that guy runs it 5 yards. That's basically been our efficient run game plays.
How awesome is it that in that opening against Baltimore, we passed the ball 20 straight plays and they ran play action 6 times? Like, isn't that fantastic? That you can still get eventually, right? You can still get a play action fake when you literally have not run the ball once the entire game.
That's what I mean, because they know Josh Allen is very efficient at if they leave it open, he's going to say, all right, I'm just going to run right up the middle then, But again, he's been able to use it even though because the other team's probably thinking, all right, they passed the ball 15 times, they've got to run it here. Yeah. Nope, play action, somebody's open.
Running the ball when we need to has been just like the key. I don't think we need to. I prefer balance, but at the end of the day, I prefer just scoring points more than anything. So if you want to throw the ball 1,000 times and only run it 3 times, all I care about is being effective in those 3 times that you run the ball. And then to answer the question that sparked this whole conversation, I think that Pittsburgh game, just because to the point, Pittsburgh knew we were going to try and run out the clock, and it didn't matter.
Couldn't stop it. Yeah,
exactly. And when someone knows what you're going to do but still can't stop it, that's true mastery and ownership of what you're doing. So that Pittsburgh performance has been the key. And if we look at the running game in this game against the Chiefs, I think they're vulnerable during the pass. And if we can run when we need to, I think that is more important than just having balance or having a 60-40 split or 80-20 or whatever you want to throw out there. Just being able to run the ball when we need to. If it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1, run the ball for a first down. That's good enough for me. And it also helps in that play action aspect, which the Bills are good with. But run the ball when you need to. Lean on the passing game. Dance with the girl that brought you, which is Josh Allen and that aerial attack on offense. And it should serve us well. And as we start to wind down now, as I throw up the toodles, you guys, I love that banner. I love that phrase. Toodles. This is championship week. It's crazy that the Bills are here. It's awesome. It's exciting. And Anthony, I think to your point here, got to give props to Kansas City. I threw up the Ric Flair graphic on Twitter for this episode, and ironically, I wanted to tie it in now. I just realized that I didn't mean for this, but one of the Ric Flair quotes, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Be the man, you got to beat the man.
And I love it. And the Chiefs are the man right now, no matter how sluggish they may look and how many holes or vulnerabilities we think they have, and the Bills still have theirs as well. At the end of the day, no matter how hot any other team is cooking, it's still the Chiefs' yard and it's still the Chiefs' league, and we have to go into their house this weekend and take it from them. But just the fact that we're here is such a fun thing to even be talking about. We're in the Final Four. It's championship week. We have the opportunity to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and championship caliber. Love that comment.
I don't know if you guys talked about it at the beginning. I know you were thinking about bringing it up, but just the emotion of this game, right? The 2 playoff games that we had so far could not be more different for me. The first one was, we need to win this game. It's stressful. It came down to bad call at the end. And I mean, it could not have been more anxiety and pressure and, oh my God, we need to win this. And I literally fell to my knees and teared up. And it was just an awesome emotional experience. The second game was like, hell yeah, we did this. Hell yeah, we're good enough to be here. Hell yeah, this feels damn good. This is where the Bills belong. This is what we're going to expect moving forward. And now it feels the same way. Like the Kansas City Chiefs don't scare us right now. We aren't saying, oh, well, we had a good year and the Chiefs are really good.
We're just happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're ready, man. We're playing top notch. We have arrived and we have a legitimate chance to make the Super Bowl.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had commented earlier, I'm uncomfortable with how comfortable I am. Yeah, I don't like how confident, like this doesn't feel right how confident I feel in this game going on the road against the defending champs, against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And I shouldn't feel good about this, but I do. And I've done the homework. I've reviewed the film. I've looked at all the analytics. I've looked at the matchups. I've looked at the breakdowns. The Bills have a shot at this game. The Bills can very easily win this game. I think this is a straight up 50-50 kind of matchup, counting it on the road and in their stadium. The Bills have a very real shot to win this game, and every Bills fan should feel really good going into this game. This is not David versus Goliath. This is a heavyweight showdown for the championship. The two best teams are here because we're the number 1 and number 2 seed, because we've been the best two teams all year, and we are on their level, and we're ready to show it.
That's the most encouraging thing. We are playing the defending Super Bowl champs, the best team in the NFL, and we deserve to be in this game. And the fact that if the Chiefs win this game, I will be heartbroken. I will be distraught. I won't be surprised because I know the Chiefs are a good team. But the fact that we're going into this game just with even some semblance of confidence, let alone the amount that we have, the fact that we can even sit and talk of, well, we're really great at this. Here's the chess match, and be able to have those conversations and know that it's not ridiculous and know that it's built in logic and reasoning and analytics and sound football analysis. That's such an awesome thing. And, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. I love that.
There's a non-zero chance that this is round 1 of a decade-long Kelly versus Marino, Manning versus Brady, big-time showdown, that this is going to be this could be one of 5 or 6 playoff matchups over the next decade that come down to these two guys and these two teams. And that's awesome to think that we might be on that level going forward, and we're up waiting for that kind of fanhood over this run. That's awesome to think about.
That's a great comp, because right now Hogan is a little bit hobbled, and the Ultimate Warrior is shaking the ropes, baby, because he's coming at you. He's ready.
Awesome.
This is
awesome.
for all those wrestling people out there. This very well could be WrestleMania 6, and the Bills are the Ultimate Warrior, and the Chiefs are Hogan, and we got the Intercontinental title, and Hogan's got the main belt, and we'll see what can happen. Oh, what you gonna do when Bills Mafia runs wild on you? There's so many possibilities in this for this game, these playoffs, the future, so many things. I want to thank you guys before I even thank the people. Well, no, let's thank the people first. You guys are less important than the people. I want to thank everybody for riding with us on this episode. The chat was awesome. The engagement, the donations, the likes, everything. So tremendous. We appreciate every single ounce of it. And whether you were watching this live or watching it later, listening on a podcasting platform, audio only on YouTube, anything like that, whatever, thank you so much for your support. It means everything to us. Thank you guys so much, and the fans. And then by extension, Greg, Anthony, thank you guys so much for coming on. This was awesome. It's exciting. It's fun. And Anthony, we'll start with you. What you got any closing thoughts? And then tell the good people here where they can find you and what you do. And also let the people know that's a suit, not pajamas. You are the man in the...
Yeah. So I do have the sweatshirt other than the button-up shirt today because I had some tattoo work done on my arm and it's still a little sore. But it's definitely the full suit, and you usually see me in the full suit. So my final thoughts on this: the Bills are going to win this game. We have to accept that as Bills fans. We're good enough to win this game. My expectation is that we win this game, and we do it in a good fashion. It's not going to be some fluke that we win it. It's because we play better than they do. So be prepared. We're going to win it. What happens on the other side is going to dictate what happens for the next 2 weeks, but we won't get into that here. You can find me always on the Hoof Podcast, the Hoof Live on Tuesday nights, right here on YouTube, on the Cover One Network, of course. And then the recorded podcast, which I've talked about a couple times already, that drops on Friday. We recorded it tonight. So check that out tomorrow. It's got all our preview for the game, all our usual segments and things. So check that out as well on all of the podcast networks, under Cover One, under the Hoof. So you can find it there. And on Twitter, of course, at Anthony Romeo NY. Always there, always interacting. Love it. You can see my posts. Have a lot of fun.
He'll be throwing out a lot of Trent Murphy support and throwing his jersey for Trent Murphy that he's got.
Hey, I'll be a Trent Murphy stan if he's out there.
There we go. You guys can find me at Greg Thompson doing the Cover One preview show, Cover One postgame show, and jumping on a half a bajillion other shows here and there as we go. I think we are in for that heavyweight match back and forth. I think that we see, maybe the Bills jump out a little bit early because they're a little rusty. I think the Chiefs come back, and I think we might see a stretch from the third quarter down to the fourth quarter where it's literally touchdown drive after touchdown drive in a game that we remember for ages. I predicted on the show 41-38 Bills because Josh Allen goes down and scores a game-winning touchdown. 45 seconds left to Stephon Diggs. We're down 34-38, and he needs to score that game-winning touchdown, and that he hits it with 30 seconds, 45 seconds left, and that it's a game we remember for the rest of our lives.
Enough heart medication in the world for Bills Mafia. If that happens.
I got so hype right now. I am so excited just off of that, like the visual and the aspects of it. Oh man, that'll be
forever. We're going to remember this game forever.
Incredible. It's something special. This game has the potential for something tremendous long-term for both of these teams, especially for the Bills. We've waited so long for this moment. As we've said throughout this year, enjoy this moment. It's a really great week. It's a really great time. Soak it all in. Enjoy every single moment of it. And again, thank you to Greg. Thank you to Anthony for joining on. I, of course, am your regular host here on Disguise Coverage. My name is Anthony as well. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, ANT. Find Disguise Coverage anywhere and everywhere you find podcasting content. Like, subscribe to that. Like and subscribe to Cover One and the Hoof podcast that Anthony is part of the tripod for, the Cover One Buffalo podcast with Greg and Aaron. We got you covered from A to Z every day of the week at Cover One. In my opinion, and I'm probably a little biased, we are the best when it comes to Bills coverage and Bills content creation and analysis and breakdowns and all those things. Thank you again to everyone who joined us on this episode, whether live, later, whatever. Thank you to Greg. Thank you to Anthony. Ooh, it's a big week. Get excited, but stay calm. We got an awesome game coming. Go Bills, and we will see you guys next week.
Go Bills.